and I had a lady at a restaurant ask me, is Jersey Boys that show on ice? I said, no. Well, kind of. Today, yes. But yeah, we'll be on a hockey rink. They'll lay out plywood and we'll set up a stage on top of it. And the next day they'll have a hockey game. Yeah. Let's watch a little time lapse. This is an arena that had 7 events in 8 days. This is kind of what stagehands do a lot of the time, is they set up and tear down events quickly. For each one of these performances, there will be probably a dozen stagehands like myself that tour with the show. They're people who know everything in depth so that they can instruct 60 to 100 local laborers in what to do on any given day for any given performance. But for each show, they have their touring hands, and then there's the local labor, which is, in this case, probably a local union. So IATSE is the Stagehands Labor Union. It's who I'm represented by and who I'm the union steward for. IATSE is an important topic that we'll be getting to later. But for now, you'll see they put up a basketball game, they put up a hockey game, they put up several concerts, and these changeovers happen quickly. Did any of you watch the Super Bowl? Go watch the halftime show. There's a million people coming in with those big rolling units that set up the stage, they run the show, they That's the kind of stuff that really professional roadies, people who have been in the business for a dozen plus years, will be leading the charge on. So those people are represented by IATSE, which stands for the International Association of Theatrical and Stage Employees. Question?
Is there a usual time frame that you have? Or does it vary between shows?
It varies between shows. So for example, Wicked, you know the musical Wicked? That show has a 3-day load-in. So on the first day, the trucks with motors show up. They're about big, they're 1-ton lifting motors. They go up into the air. Wicked, I think, has triple digits of motor points. So they'll hang about 120 lifting motors for all their truss and scenic units. That's the first day. All of the riggers are in the space lifting motors all day. Apparently, the advanced team, the advanced riggers, that is a sweet job to have because you get flown out for like 1 day, you work hard for 12 hours, and then you go home. Especially on a show that sits for a long time, you don't have to go out a lot, and you still make your weekly rate. It's a job that I aspire to one day, but do not currently have. But yeah, show like Wicked, about 3 days of load-in. 1 will be pre-rig, 2 will be load-in of scenic elements and flown goods. So that's like, you see the bubble from the TikTok audio, like, she's in a bubble, bro. Yeah, that's part of the Wicked set. It's a huge hanging element that tracks on and off stage with automation winches. That's what I do, is automation. Automation is the practice of making things go on and off stage with the assistance of automated motors or like winches. So winches roll steel cable on and off stage that pulls stuff. And for my show, that's kind of small. It's 2 tracks that track on and off pallets that carry like microphones and a bench. It's very small. But it's also something that was unfamiliar to me while I was in high school. Do you have a question?
Did you eventually, for stage work, do something more like robotics, where you basically have behind the set, and the sets in the front, where you can obviously like program it to go to specific spots on stage?
Certainly, that's what I do. When I'm running a show, I'm downstage right behind some masking legs at a computer, and I hit a go button and it sends stuff to a predetermined location. And that's, to do with the winches and tracks. On a bigger show, they'll have a show deck, which is, did you have a question? Oh yeah, I'll finish up this first and I'll get back to you. Yeah, on a bigger show, they'll have a stage deck, which is like 4x8 snap together flooring. And some of that will have automation track or pulleys installed in it before the show goes up. And then you run the cables and move the goods. So that's kind of how automation works, is it's essentially robotics. Let's get to your question.
So do you pretty much like you pull a lever for each specific motion that happens, or like if you have a moving platform, you have to move that platform separately, or do you have like a button that sets off multiple things, where like you're like, oh, it's time for this one movement, so we push this one button and it moves the whole platform, plus it like starts the bubbles or whatever, or do you have to do everything?
Well, I know for a fact that the bubbler is controlled by the lighting board. That's not my job. I've run a snow machine though. But yeah, I use a program called Spike Mark to do my automation movements. It's something that I program during tech to move the winches a certain amount of units to go from one place to another with the units that I'm moving. Spike Mark is actually a free open source software. It's something you can find online. It's made by a company called Creative Connors. If anybody's interested in taking a look at it, you can make virtualizations of moving units with their 3D software. Again, totally free. It's a pretty cool thing. And yeah, that's the program that I use. It only outputs encoder signal though. So if I need to do something with MIDI, that's going to be off the light board. Did we have another question? Oh yeah, go for it.
You get to like choose where you start, like starting as a rigger, or do you get thrown in wherever?
Most times you will start, if you're doing rigging with the union, you'll start as a down rigger who chalks out the floor, puts points where motors hang, and does bridle math to show, like if you have 10 feet on this side and 20 feet on this side, where's the motor gonna hang? So that's where you start, is down rigging. That gets paid about as much as being a stagehand in other department. But you'll shadow a down rigger who's usually an older guy who doesn't like to go up to the grid and pull rope. Once you have a little bit of experience doing that, they'll send you up to the grid and you'll get experience hanging motors. Usually they'll throw a log of Schedule 80 pipe down and then put a single basket of steel rope around the pipe, hang it up with a shackle. That's how a motor hangs most frequently. Kat, you have a question?
Yeah, so student questions on one here.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
I believe so. Do you have any other questions? Cool, thank you.
what would the process of employment be for a carpenter?
For a carpenter with the local union, you're going to go to the IATSE Local 28, assuming you're here in Portland area. IATSE Local 28 has the hiring hall page at which you can put in a resume and apply to be on the call list. Most people do start as carpenters. You'll be mostly called to the Moda Center for shows there, much like rock concerts and hockey games, or just stuff in the arena that's not real complicated. To get calls in performing arts centers like the Portland 5, you need to be on the call list for a couple of months. That's where the really fun parts of the job come. Things like Wicked. Go ahead.
Is there like a certain trade school that's going you to go to get into this industry?
I feel like I should advance the slides a little bit. Yeah. Do I click? Do I? Yeah, thank you very much for engaging with this. I appreciate it. It's the arrow buttons. All right. Oh gosh, I'm useless. Oh, I hit the. Hey, okay, here is the slide that sort of answers your question. Most touring stagehands start off with a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts. They go to a conservatory school, like Southern Oregon University is a good example. North Carolina School of the Arts, UNCSA, is another good example. I didn't go to any of them. Yeah, I've heard of a lot, but I didn't go to any of those. I went to Lewis and Clark College. My theater class was 12 people, and we had a very small venue. I didn't learn a whole lot about being in the union or what it means to tour. But an alumni friend of mine, when I expressed interest in going on the road with a touring show, got me in contact with Hector, my current, I guess, boss. The ownership of Jersey Boys Tour is very convoluted. So Hector is the production manager. He manages the hiring of the crew, but not the management or actors. It's just kind of weird because it's owned by both Dodgers and Networks. Networks is one of the touring companies that is most easy to work for if you're right out of the gate. Network stands for non-equity touring. If you get a non-equity show, none of the actors are represented by a union. However, on most non-equity shows, you are still going to be represented by IATSE. I'm not represented by 28. I'm under what's called ACT. ACT is a national representation program. So I report directly to the national branch of IATSE coming out of New York and Chicago.
Why do you think it would be important that a stagehand might have union representation when a performer might not? What might be the difference? Which said injury, right?
Yes,
Making
behind you.
sure that you have that workman's comp.
There's a question behind you. Oh, sorry, are you good? Yeah. Yeah, no, especially on smaller shows with worse schedules, it often feels like the company is trying to kill you. My first full season, last season, we started off with 2 weeks of tech, and then they put us in 12 cities in 14 days. And that is just at the limit of what they can do to you under the current contract.
Does that mean that part-time jobs or, jobs working in like the food industry, things about that, like in terms of being on your feet and not honoring the number of breaks that you're supposed to get, right?
They absolutely honor the number of breaks. That's part of the union protection.
Right, but they'll make these guys work right up too.
Absolutely. Unionization is very important. If you guys want to talk about that at the end of the presentation, I'd be happy to. Like I said, I'm the union steward with my show. I know a good bit about collective bargaining. Yeah, so anyway, one-nighters, they're horrible. You start at 8 in the morning. Sometimes you get out at 6 in the morning. And then you get on a bus and you sleep for as long as you can before you get to the next venue. A lot of the shows you're going to get right out of the gate will be one-nighter tours. Jersey Boys is one of the bigger shows on that spectrum. We'll do one-nighters about twice a week on the really rough weeks. And yeah, it's really hard to move a 4-truck show. Because like I said, we start at 8 in the morning. We work hard up until the 1-hour dinner break between show call and whenever we finish the show. Ideally, that's a 1-hour dinner break, but if we get stuck in a really hard venue, sometimes that will be a half an hour in which you're still mostly working and trying to chow down on some food. Go ahead.
When you're first starting out, do they kind of give you a hard job right out of the gate, or is there a way you can like work up to like the harder jobs?
You usually start at the hard jobs, and as you get experience, you get the really cushy ones where you can just sit back and watch everybody go. Yeah, the Teamsters are a truck loading union. They are the people in the trucks. They load trucks and they load them very quickly, but I've never heard anybody complain more than a Teamster. I love loading my truck because the road crew loads the trucks. We have the truck packs and we know how everything goes into the venue and into the trucks. Go ahead, Kat.
Did you hire extra hands in the city that you were in?
The city that I was in,
Like when you land in the city, how big is the crew that you supervise?
yes, the crew that I supervise is around 60 people total. I am personally responsible for about a crew of a dozen. Carpentry is one of the larger crews aside from wardrobe during the show run. But wardrobe gets there at noon. I get there at 8 a.m. And wardrobe leaves by midnight because their boxes are one of the first ones to pack up and get on a truck. But yes, we do hire local labor, not me personally, but the company agrees with the local union or whomever the venue has an agreement with to supply labor. I hope that it answers your question. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure. Let's see, make sure I covered all this. Oh, the best piece of advice that I can give for anybody looking to get into this industry is grow your network. Work at a lot of theaters, work at community theaters, work for other high schools. If you can find work to do it, meet people, grow the network of people who know you. Because it's people who know you who will get you interesting jobs like this.
We're in college at Lewis and Clark here in Portland. Maybe tell them some of the theaters that you worked at and the little odd jobs that you did.
Sure. When I was in college, I worked for almost every nonprofit theater in the Portland area. It's like the Shoebox Theater. I don't know if anybody's been there. Gosh, who was the one that I just worked for? Yeah, I worked a little bit at Milagro, but they don't pay well. They're $13 an hour and ugh, never again. Let's see. Artist Repertory Theater is another good one that I worked for. I actually really liked working there. Their working conditions are very good. I did one load in for Imago Theater. It's a puppet theater. It's really interesting artwork. Go ahead.
Did you start with this career while you were in high school, or did you like start when you were in college?
Yeah, tell them where you went to high school.
Oh yeah, geez, I didn't mention that. So I went to high school at Hillsborough High School. It's, you know, in Hillsborough. I graduated in 2014, and during high school, I mostly acted in shows. That was my thing. I did, however, know how to not hurt myself with a screw gun, so I wound up putting together a lot of the sets.
Did you help with the networking for when you started this career, or were they like totally unrelated? It's all college that helped you.
Oh, definitely wasn't all college. Acting in high school taught me a lot of things that I really value. First of all, being able to project your voice, because when you're on the deck in a theater, it's really loud. There are 60 people working with screw guns and hammers, and it's just a noisy cacophony. So if you need to be heard over that, you need to be able to throw your voice hard. If the guy on the fly rail that's 60 feet away needs to hear me saying stop, that's very important. That's something that I learned from it being in acting classes, especially. Go ahead. Probably not. It's a little bit cutthroat as an industry. I don't know. I don't really like applying for jobs. As much as I can, I like to have somebody recommend a job to me and then say, you have it if you want it, and I'll just go do it.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
If you're always on the road, how do you get your mail and pay your bills?
I I have any paper mail that I can or that I really need quickly get sent to the office of my company. They'll forward it to an address where we are on the road, and then the company management team will distribute the paper mail about once a week. For packages, I just either send it to my mom's house or find a hotel that's like around 2 weeks away and then have them ship it to the hotel or venue. It's a little tough, especially if you need to get prescriptions mailed to you. Hard to find a way to do that that's completely reliable. Yeah, go for it.
Are you traveling around? Do you have a house or apartment to come back to, or how often are you at home compared to how often you're out?
So I'm here for 2 weeks this time because our dates in San Francisco got canceled. I was supposed to have a 2-week sit in San Francisco, which would have been a lot of fun. But as a general rule, I'm on the road for 7 to 8 months out of the year. And then I keep a storage unit here in Hillsborough where most of my stuff lives. I have a car that's parked at my parents' place, and I drive it, 2-3 months a year. It's a long time to be on the road. Go ahead.
Do you still like randomly buy souvenirs, or is that like a whole thing now?
My favorite thing to get on the road is local union shirts. So I've got a really cool shirt from Seattle, their local 15, and it's got a painting of a whale on the back. And that's one of the things that I collect on the road, but I put my life into 2 suitcases and a backpack for most of the year. So whatever I have has to be functional and small. Go ahead. My favorite part of touring, gosh, I really like the money. Yeah, if there's one piece of advice I can give to any of you, sell out. Nonprofit theater doesn't really pay the bills. Like I said, you'll be making about 13 bucks an hour and working harder than you need to under less than safe circumstances. On a Broadway show, the contractual minimum you can make on a union show is $756 a week, plus $52 a day in per diem. Per diem is for living expenses like food. But yeah, that's a great part about touring is it pays enough to make an actual living. Like I said, this is my career. I do this as a full-time job. Go ahead. Oh, it depends on the week. On a really tough one-nighter day, I'll be there from 8 a.m. till 5, 6 in the morning. So around 20 to 22 hours is a long one. And then on days where we sit in a city, if we have only one show, that's a 4-hour day and I get to sleep or do whatever in the city for the rest of that day. So the hours really vary, and it's a little depressing to calculate your hourly rate when you're on a really tough day. Oh boy, you know what? I've worked 120-hour week and that hourly rate is pathetic. Yeah, go ahead. There are a couple of skills. Yeah, let's hit this next slide, huh? Okay. Hey, this describes a normal day. Do you guys want to hear about that before the question or after? Let's maybe answer the question. What was the question again? So there are a couple of skills that I really think everybody should learn during high school, college, work before you go on tour. And that's learn how to weld, learn how to operate a spotlight, learn to solder, and learn general troubleshooting. Because when you're touring with a show, that stuff rides in a truck, it travels 1,000 miles in a night, surround and break.
Yeah,
So
we built with wood, right, but the touring.
yeah, we try to avoid duct tape. It's all gaff tape because that doesn't leave that sticky residue. It's tape. A lot of it is tape and luck is how the show gets held together.
TCC has fantastic welding courses, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get the opportunity to do so, learn how to weld. It will serve you well if you want to continue doing tech theater of any kind. Go ahead.
Starting a project, what is the time that they give you for like, hey, you have to leave in 2 weeks, or it's like, hey, you have to leave like right now?
So the first season that I went out with Jersey Boys, I had 8 hours of notice before I got on the plane. I'd just given my 2 weeks at my old job at Hollywood Lights. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. It's a lighting company out in Portland. Boo, yeah. No, my boss had just cut my hours in half, and I was like, this isn't worth it. Here's my 2 weeks. I got a call from Hector saying, can you be out this afternoon? I said, no, I need to quit my job and pack. So I got on a plane at 6:30 in the morning the next day. Sometimes the turnaround is a little longer. For this season, since I was a returning hand, I had 3-4 weeks of notice before I left. Go ahead.
So I don't know if this was like answered or like in any way like noted, but like how did like COVID affect your like job and your day-to-day life?
We shut down the tour March 13th, 2020. And yeah, the Ides of March, beware them. But we came back about 1 year and 8 months later. So during that time, I got an apartment in Portland and I played a lot of Minecraft. Yeah, I didn't get a job.
Learn to rebuild a car.
Yeah, I got an old car and I took the engine out of it and rebuilt that, took the transmission out, did the same thing. I learned a skill. It was fun, but it didn't work a normal job. But yeah, since we've been back, everybody on the crew has 2 vaccine shots, a booster, and we test every day with a PCR on Saturday. It's impacted the job quite a lot because we have an extra 2 people on the bus. COVID safety management team, basically people to say like, hey, put that up over your nose and, you know, kick out people who are trying to falsify tests. But yeah, COVID made a pretty big impact in the world of theater. Question, you first?
What is something like you really wish you knew and did, like before you actually got to like a career?
Those slides.
Yeah, I should probably keep doing that, huh? Oh, hey, here's some of my stuff out of the trucks.
That's the boxes that you're doing, if you work for Yahtzee and you were working over at the Moda Center. Those boxes that mostly you would be pushing in it, you can tell they hold equipment.
They're heavy. This is
They're heavy.
Carpentry Workbox 1, C1. Holds all of my tools from hammers to Nika press tools, which are like for binding steel rope. C2 has all of my hardware. So we mostly use 3/8" bolts to stick everything together. These guys are the Nova Star boxes. They hold pieces of video wall. The video wall sections that we have are 10 foot by 8 foot tall. Nobody? I haven't brought it to the city, so it would have been more than 3 years ago since it's been here.
But I mean, if you saw here at the campus more, right, the video wall.
Yeah, you can kind of see the corner of it in this shot. I have a better picture of the video wall in a later slide. Maybe we can jump around. But this is a kind of poor picture of a load-in day. So you can see that the bridge is hanging from motors. That's this big scenic unit right there. We use build motors to lift all of the set pieces up to construct them while they're hanging in the air. It's a pretty standard practice on larger shows. If they have a big scenic unit, they'll like pick up the top layer of the house and then build the bottom layer of the house underneath it. Yeah, let's keep moving on. This is just a picture of a really clean backstage area. Yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful day. I've got space for the props guitars. I've got space for the electric cable caddies. All these picks are done really nicely, so they're hanging above head high. Nobody's gonna smack them. I also have a picture of a day done really badly. Oop. Maybe I didn't put it in here. Okay, well, that's a nice day. Here's our tour schedule. As you can see, these are 1 or 2 day engagements. This is the week that I'm going into when I come back from this layoff. It's gonna be rough. Okay, Yeah, people who do well on the road, most stagehands are, they're an interesting bunch. Like the people that you'll meet on the road are some of the most interesting people ever. uh, yes, like you'll have some encounters with stagehands who are really, really awful, and some with stagehands who build photorealistic droids out of Star Wars movies, and like there's a lot of variety. Go ahead. For the first 3 days, being on the bus is a little uncomfortable, but after a while, it starts to feel like you're being rocked to sleep. And if you've been working a really long day, you just conk out, don't even notice it. Go ahead. 500 miles.
I'm intrigued to know the ratio of women to men who are working on this tour as stagehand. And
Yeah.
married versus unmarried, and parents versus unparents.
No one on my touring crew currently is over the age of 35. None are currently married. Yeah, my partner works with me on the road. She's the head of props. So a lot of the people on the road have their partners with them when they travel. Was it? I was going to say something else about that, but I forgot. Go ahead. Absolutely. When I'm home, I don't like to go hardly anywhere. I meet a lot of people. I go a lot of really interesting places. And when I'm home, I want to be in my sweatpants, crashed out on the couch. That's it. Oh, I remembered the ratio of men and women. Last season, we had a perfect 50-50 split of men and women. This year, it's around 40-60 more men than women.
That's amazing.
It's more common on younger shows. So like Jersey Boys or other really bad contracts, you'll see more of an equitable split between men and women. We employ trans people a lot. I've met a lot of trans stagehands. I believe that IATSE is one of the unions that is leading in diversity, which is kind of cool. Go for it.
This Jersey, oh my god, this Jersey Boys the only like musical you worked with, and did you know like
I really do want to get a different, maybe better show in the coming years. There are really only three companies that do small touring like this, which is probably where I'll be getting my next job from. That's going to be Networks, Troika, and Worklight. They're companies to keep in mind if you do want to apply with them online. Sometimes people do get hired that way, but it's much more frequently you'll know somebody, they'll know somebody else, and that person will have a job for you. Leave tomorrow. Go for it. Yeah.
When doing deliveries, how do you guys handle traffic and time crunches?
Deliveries?
Like with the trucks, like is it like traffic, and like if so, how does that affect?
Or truck crunches.
The truckers drop off their goods in the morning, they go to sleep. And yeah, they're usually sleeper cabs. One dude's got a sleeper studio apartment. That thing's like 20 feet long, just the cab. Crazy. But yeah, so the truckers will sleep all day while we do the show and do the load in, load out process. And then they'll hop in their trucks and they'll drive it to the next city. And if they get there before us, they'll sleep all day. When we do longer jumps, they'll do what's called a split drive, where they have a local truck driver basically ride with them in the truck, and then they'll take 8-hour shifts of driving and sleeping. Gosh, I'm sorry, a lot of questions. Thank you for being so engaged. I really do appreciate it. Go ahead.
the actors, and two, what do you do when the show is like performing and going on?
I love the actors. They're very friendly. A lot of shows you'll see that the stars don't really talk to the text, but our show is really a friendly show. My The star guy, his name's John Hacker, and he's a really good friend of mine. He's also going to be in the Jersey Boys movie with Nick Jonas in the next couple years. He's going to be playing Joe Pesci. But yeah, no, I love the actors. They're a lot of fun. During the show, I am backstage. I'm hitting a button that activates automation cues. That's about it. I don't do a whole lot. Okay, another question. No, we have a one with bunks. It's a Prevost, like transport. You'll see hockey teams travel on them. The bunk is 6 feet by 2.5 feet, and I am 6'1". Yep. It's a little cramped, but you know, when you're really tired, it's very comfy.
Separate your bunks personally, or like, how do you guys split sleeping quarters, or like?
The bus life is a lot of fun. There's a TV in the front lounge. Sometimes we'll throw somebody's Switch up on the screen and play games together. A lot of the time we're just sleeping, but there's snacks, there's a coffee machine, there's bunks, there's couches. It's really comfy to be riding on the crew bus. The stagehand or the actors travel in an upright bus where they're sitting the whole time. So they have neck pillows and it's really stuffy and nasty. But yeah, I don't really personally decorate my bunk, but a lot of people put up like fairy lights and stuff. Yeah. Go ahead. No, it's okay. I'm happy with the questions. Thank you.
What's something you wish you like to do?
I wish I'd known about it earlier. Like, I wish that I'd known that this was an option, that I could travel for work and do theater. This is kind of an ideal situation for me. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a hard job. Like, it is not easy. And I wish that I'd known how rough the schedule was going to be ahead of time, but I'm pretty happy with the surprises. Go ahead. I really liked Seattle, but I'd been there before. Providence, Rhode Island is really nice. It's a lot like, it's like Portland with a Boston light accent. It's really fun. There's great seafood. Oh, that's one of the great things about being on the road is seafood. You get a lot of seafood because you're really touring the coasts of a lot of the country. But yeah, let's maybe advance the slide. So by show of hands, how many people are interested in more acting? You guys are all interested in tech, maybe more acting. So we can talk a little bit about the acting side of this. People who are interested in tech. Yeah, yes, no. Okay. Well, if you're more interested in tech, there's really 4 routes that I'm really, comfortable in telling you can go into. And that's going to be carpentry, electrics, props, and audio. So I'm a carpenter. I know a lot about carpentry. That's my thing. But the electricians are the people who do all of the lighting stuff. That's going to be programming moving lights, hanging up pieces of truss, focusing lighting instruments. It's a very different line of work from what I do, but it shares a lot of the elements like troubleshooting. Their stuff breaks way more than mine. So they're troubleshooting different problems like all the time. It's a big skill that they need to have. And it's a very specific skill set that involves a lot of soldering. Soldering is like nerd welding. It's a good skill to have.
A lot of you guys
Go ahead.
know how to solder, don't you?
Yeah.
You did that in engineering, right?
No, not for all.
But you got to do a little of it, right?
It's a useful skill for repairing connectors. Go ahead.
Or main groups again.
Carpentry, electricians, audio, and props. So, like I said, my partner is the head of props on this tour. Yeah, I see a prop being painted over there. Props deals with all of the hand props, furniture, everything that's used by the actors during the show. They also lay out the Marley flooring at the during the load-in. But most importantly, they're the people that kind of head the traffic management on stage. So they dump the trucks, they pull everything out, and then they tell people where it needs to go to be out of the way of each department as they're doing their thing. Yeah, other question? That's okay.
Are some jobs like more hard to get into, like, competition ones?
I think props and costumes are probably pretty hard.
Yeah, props, costumes, and wigs, I'd say, are difficult, but less so for props. Props is, about on par with carpentry, electrics, audio. Audio takes really specific training for mixing a show so there's no feedback. Yeah, they're all very specific skills. There's not necessarily competition as so much as just scarcity, even in skilled labor. Like there's a scarcity in people who want to do this kind of work. So like I know our hiring manager has been really struggling to find head carpenters this year, which is probably why he's going to make me one next year. But yeah, there's not so much scarcity or competition as much as there's a scarcity of really skilled people to perform these duties. 10 minutes? Oh gosh, I'm gonna click through some more slides. Oh yeah, so this is the video wall. And this is Corey. He's attempting percussive maintenance with a broom. He's whacking a video panel that's not showing up. This is another tool of the trade. It's a ladder. It's also a bench. This is a kind of good picture of our stage. That's the big scenic unit in the back. There's also the big light wall hanging up behind all that. It's what won us a Tony, so we can't cut it. Yes, this is a little bit about like how COVID impacted us. But yeah, there's a lot of demand for new people who are getting into touring and being a stagehand. There's also demand for people who are willing to get AEA certified to be a stage manager. Stage managers, I'm sure you have some knowledge of what a stage manager does. They call out cues during the show, and they're also represented by the Actors Union, AEA, which stands for Actors Equity something. Association? Perhaps. That's...
Are they wearing wigs?
No. Front man is John Hacker. He's normally a blonde, so he gets dyed. Yeah, it's this John Hacker. Back. Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're from my neighborhood.
I don't know how to do that. Oh no. Okay.
From my neighborhood, you got three ways out. You could join the army, you could get
Okay.
mobbed up, or you could become a star.
Anyway, this is a promo trailer for the Jersey Boys engagement in one of the next cities. It's a little taste of the show, but most of the footage comes from the First National, which is the bigger version of my tour that then gets pared down to fit into less trucks and cost less money to put up. And that's the version that I do. Yeah, I wish I'd known that there was a union that represented stagehands while I was in high school. You can start working with them as soon as you're 18 and have a driver's license.
Right outstanding. Downtown Portland, folks.
Yeah, you'll have to go into the city to do some of this work. A lot of people take the Max line.
Yep.
It's, yeah. I believe the driver's license is for identification, but if you have like a passport, that works too. Yeah, I wish that I'd taken a second semester of welding. Like I said, it's a very important skill. Definitely. Quitting is not something to be ashamed of. If your job is bad, leave. It's okay to quit anything. Discussing pay with your coworkers. That's a big thing about being in the union, is that I talk about and discuss what I make with everybody on my crew. Everybody knows what everybody else is making. You can be sure that you're not getting taken advantage of by the employers.
You know, for women and minorities, that's a really important skill to have, is to make sure that you're asking, how much are you getting paid?
Absolutely. Yeah. I know for a fact that nobody on my tour is making the contractual minimum, which is important.
That is great.
If you're doing this kind of work, you deserve to be paid more than the bare minimum. Even if you're coming in with no experience, it's just hard work and you deserve more than the contractual minimum. Let's see. Take opportunities. Like I said, I had 8 hours notice to get on the plane. It's scary sometimes, but just be willing to go. Oh, I was talking about the photorealistic droids. This guy in Seattle makes droids from Star Wars, paints them, 3D prints them. And here he is on the deck. That's kind of cool. Guy on the spiral is that's Scott. He's my head carpenter. Technically my boss, but more like a friend of mine. Oh, and thank you. Thank you everybody for participating. I really appreciate all the questions, and I'm glad you guys have been so engaged with this presentation. Sorry if it was a little bit disjointed, but I am doing my best.
If you have any follow-up questions, you can always just send us the job. I'll be happy to
Yeah.
answer them.
I see you have a question back there.
So, funny thing, do they pay for your traveling expenses, or is that something that you cover yourself, where it's taken out of your paycheck?
I don't pay for any of my flights. The company pays for flights, meals. If the day is hard, if you have less than a half an hour for meal breaks, they pay for meals. They pay for Ubers wherever you need to go. They pay for rental cars. None of the travel expenses are taken out of your pocket. But you get all the rewards points for like airline mileage and hotel stays. It's great. Go ahead. Yeah, they pay for you to fly out there. It's all covered. There's a caveat. If you quit before the first 3 weeks are up, you have to pay for the travel of your replacement to come out to replace you. But that's the only time you'll ever pay for a flight. Do we have any other questions? Go ahead.
So is joining the union right out of high school a good way to start trying to establish yourself, or like how would you go about doing that?
I mean, you can either go to college and pursue a degree in theater, or even something else and just work in theater, or you can join the union. Right out the gate's fine. I met a head electrician who was 19 when he was on tour. So, you know, if you work with the union, you make those good connections, you can get this kind of work because of that. Go ahead, Kat.
What are the skills you have to study for
You know, tool literacy, just being able to not hurt yourself with a drill is a really good first step, but you'll need to know how to work an angle grinder, a lot of kinds of saws, a lot of power tool safety is important. Yeah, you know, if you want to do it right out of high school, you can, but you certainly don't have to. It is a tough job, and it drains you a little bit. So take some time and get familiar with the craft, and then take take some time, get familiar with the craft, and once you're like prepared, knowledgeable, then maybe look into touring. But if you pursue like a BFA or something, immediately is fine. You'll have the knowledge you need to succeed. Go ahead.
what about like uniform or like visible tattoos and piercings? I've never seen them. Do they have certain rules for stuff like that? Or
No.
just the all black safety, I got it.
Yes. Yeah, no, you could. You can have tattoos and piercings and whatever.
Well, like on the all black thing, can you wear like cool socks?
I mean, you can. I don't. Stage blacks is really, it's a loose thing. Like you can wear like dark green or something. It's just not one of the most important things in the world. Anybody else? Questions?
Wow.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so,
Yeah, thank you all so much.
yeah, I did very much this morning, and I just kept thinking back, hello. Thursday's gonna be a big day for us, we've got a lot to do, let's catch up on, is there anything we want to think about it now?